listening to episode 262 of Mitolife Radio. I'm your host, Matt Blackburn. Today, I'm excited to have back on the show Benny Wills. I don't have a lot of philosophical shows. I tend to focus more on physical aspects of human health. But the information that Benny talks about in this episode, I think is super important. I've been taking a lot of time off of social media and just taking several steps back, just noticing how prevalent this doomsday mindset or looming apocalypse mindset, whatever you want to call it, it's really common. I actually think it's one of the factors that's fueling the trendiness of homesteading and butchering animals and, traditional living, which is all awesome and great for people that are truly fulfilled by that lifestyle. But the motivation for doing it has to come from the right place. And I've caught myself several times trying to put a date on it. Oh, we probably only have another 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. And the uncomfortable truth is nobody knows if and when society is going to completely unravel and you can't get gas and diesel or propane anymore or wood pellets. And it's great to be prepared. As I said, I enjoy living off grid and I think it's a great lifestyle. But as Benny talks about in the show, oftentimes that comes with a whole lot of other stuff. He mentioned in the show either becoming stuck or bitter or angry. I noticed that people are angrier than ever, especially on social media. It's all arguing. And I think a lot of that comes with just having this obsession with everything that's wrong in the world, as Benny talks about. So we're going to jump right in. Here is Benny Wills. Benny Wills, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure to be back and for welcoming me into your home and for having another chat with me.
Yeah, we connected several years ago, and I think we've both been in, I think you deeper than me, in what you would call the truther community, researching all these rabbit holes. And I think that's how, I think when I was getting into human health and natural health and nutrition, you were diving deep into all the rabbit holes, like you were going to all these conferences, right?
Yeah, for better or for worse. I mean, I definitely was a conspiracy guy for a long time. In fact, I was the conspiracy guy on my YouTube channel for my previous YouTube channel called Joy Camp, which was all about comedy, where we like poke fun at conspiracies. And I had a character called the Conspiracy Guy, so I've definitely come from that world. And yeah, I've performed and emceed at many truth, freedom, liberty events over the past, 10 years. So I was firmly embedded in that community, and I'm still on the side of truth, obviously, but I'm not as active in the rabbit holes I used to be.
Well, the convergence is really interesting to me because I think it was 2005, 2006, my Aikido sensei in high school got me interested in the Zeitgeist documentary, and I watched that. And then that started me down this tumble for 4 years of Project Camelot and researching, Black government project whistleblowers and super soldiers and space programs and all this stuff. And eventually I just started to get to this point of, well, what do I do about it? And that for me was nutrition in 2010 when I discovered vegetable juicing and detoxification. So I was like, oh, that's actually how we can get some of our power back and we can actually take action. Because if they're controlling all this other stuff, what are they doing to our body? So that's why I was excited to have you on again, because there is this interconnection. A lot of people that are into natural health, and whether it's veganism or carnivore or a balanced perspective of just supporting the human body in all sorts of different ways, they tend to be into a lot of these so-called conspiracy theories,
Mhm.
right?
Yes. Yeah, well, I was in a similar trajectory. I mean, my journey, I mean, I can trace my journey back to elementary school and, learning about the JFK assassination and, the sort of flimsy story we were told about the construction of the pyramids when I was in elementary school. Um, but yeah, it was Loose Change documentary, and then of course Zeitgeist that really set me off and running. And yeah, it's been quite the journey ever since. And yeah, I mean, I think I'd safely say I don't dwell in the rabbit hole anymore, but I gained a lot from that I definitely am grateful for, particularly the ability to question everything. I think it's the best thing I got from being a conspiracy guy for so long is I'm not um I don't know. I don't take anything at face value. I come to my own conclusions and not even conclusions, working theories. But I definitely got to the point where too much research was having negative effects on my life. And I had to, you know, change up my whole outlook and game plan in life.
Did you kind of get to the same place where it was like, well, what do I do about it? Like you kind of get to this place of powerlessness and
Well, yeah, powerlessness. What happened, and I don't know where to begin, but I became obsessed with wisdom. I think that was like what turned my life around because I got to the point where I wasn't like seeing the negative in everything and jumping to the conclusion that everything was a conspiracy and that there was malicious intent behind everything, wasn't adding any value to my life. And as I needed to shift my attitude, my behavior, especially as I was getting older and I got married and starting a family. And I decided to just look into like, well, what does it take to be successful, not just financially, but like successful in life? And so I became obsessed with philosophy and just timeless wisdom and the people who have had an impact throughout history, whose names you remember, who've been you know, the ones who shift reality, shift consciousness, and have leave such a mark that everything changes because of their existence. And yeah, I've come a long way, and that sort of mindset shift has given me a new perspective on all of it, and I'm much better off now.
yeah, that's awesome. We were just out enjoying the sunshine on the deck and talking about how people tend to, like you said, question everything. And I think I was there, but you can get lost in that where you uh, like I'm of the belief now where everything is not out to kill us because that's kind of a stressful philosophy, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it's absolutely destructive, and I think okay. So I guess the biggest again, I don't want I hesitate to say conclusion because I'm just open to learning and to having my mind change and the shift in perspective, paradigm shifts, all that. And the more I've digested, because I didn't used to read, I wasn't a reader. I mean, I was all YouTube and like podcasts and I also got to the point where I was completely neglecting mainstream. So I was only alternative information. And the more I've read books from throughout time, I don't know, I'm getting a clearer picture of what I feel is sort of the human experience and what each person has to grapple with throughout their lives. And there is an element of deception and corruption and tyranny and what you could call evil that seems to always exist. And it's up to the individual to internalize that and choose a different course, choose a different path, and also, go within and be like, well, how can I help? You see a problem that is affecting people, you have the power to have an influence on that problem to help people. Um, and yeah, it's about like using the circumstances you're born into and seeing what you can again internalize to help others and therefore help yourself. And it's what we're dealing with now is nothing new. It's just our flavor right now in the 21st century.
Mhm.
And we all have that in us. We all can choose good or evil at any time. That's like free will, right? We have the choice of making the right decision or the wrong decision. Um, and some people lean into making wrong decisions. Or again, but even that's subjective because it's like that's me casting my own judgment on it. But yeah, I mean it's deep.
Do you, Do you think there's value to keeping up on what's going on globally? Because I remember I, uh, in high school before I watched Zeitgeist, I think I was on, Fox and CNN News, and then I moved from that to the Colbert Report and the Daily Show, and then I saw their agenda of at the time it was promoting Obama, and I was start even my brain fog, nutritionally, I could still see, wow, they are just an advertisement for Obama. So I stopped those shows. And then I started, my news became, like you said, YouTube and alternative media and these whistleblower interviews and stuff. Um, it, do you think it's all just kind of mental masturbation, or do you think there is some value in knowing some of that stuff of what's happened or what's going on now? Or
I think there's definitely value, but I think that one of the problems I've seen is people can become addicted to that and they become almost complacent as a result. It's like they have to know what's the next chapter in the book? What's the next, what's right around the corner? What's happening? And they become so hyper aware of everything that they lose track of what they're in control of or what they can do. And they sort of lose the plot of their own lives. And it becomes like an addiction. You have to constantly feed the addiction and know what's going on. And that can leave you in a really negative state, in a really bad place, and not helping anyone or yourself, and just being angry at the world, blaming everybody else. And that's, I guess, like what I really arrived at was that I was mad at everybody else for not seeing what I was seeing. And I was casting blame. And if anything I've gleaned from all the philosophy and wisdom I've taken in is that is rule number one is you don't blame anybody or anything for your circumstances in life. You take full responsibility and full accountability of every aspect of your life. And that's like the key. That's the first step towards wisdom is accountability. And then the second step is no complaining. And of course, then forgiveness, So there's like these really basic things that have helped me reframe it all. Cause I think I was just waiting for the world to wake up so my life could improve. I thought the world owed me something. I thought the world owed me happiness. The world owed me, a free ride, essentially. And it doesn't work that way. And you can't expect everyone to wake up and, I don't know, get on the same page as you.
yeah, yeah, I was definitely in that mindset when I was down in Southern California. Um, the first 10 years of my journey or whatever, I was looking around at my family and friends and coworkers, and why can't you guys see this? Why are you still eating fast food? Why are you still, drinking this crappy water? It's like it's so stressful. And I looking back, it's kind of hilarious now to see how much I was stressing myself out. And I think a lot of it was just I was in those people's presence too much. It's just removing myself, not to be full hermit, but like you said, taking responsibility. And for me, it was taking responsibility of where I live. It's like you can choose where you live.
And I think that if you really want to have an influence on people, you have to become someone who is worth listening to. I think that's, I have a lot of, like, again, theories, working theories and all this, but I think social media has really, I think there's a lot of benefits to social media. First of all, I'm like an advocate for it. But at the same time, it gives people, I don't know, a platform to just spew their opinions and think that everyone should listen to them without having like earned the right to have influence, because you're not walking any sort of talk, you're just talking. And if you want people to listen to you, you have to like be someone worth listening to. You have to have something, you have to be working towards something, accomplishing something, being someone who is working towards making an impact and having influence,
When we were just talking about uh, an hour ago or so, the how it's kind of rare now for people to admit that they're wrong, and now these philosophical debates, whether it's religious or spiritual or nutritional, I see it all the time where people want a gladiator style, fight, mentally, where basically the goal is to win and to dominate and assert that your viewpoint is the correct one and theirs is wrong. is that really constructive, or is the constructive part in people seeing, hey, admitting, hey, I was wrong, here's why I was wrong, and here's the nuances of what I figured out.
Right. So one of the things I actually got from Zeitgeist was, and I wrote it down in a notebook when I saw the movie, was Peter Joseph's like opinion on opinions and how we mistaken our opinions for our identity. So if someone challenges your opinion, you take it personally and you don't want to be seen as weak. So you don't want to be proven wrong. So you hold on to it even though it might be wrong, even though it might be outdated. And when in reality, when a new information replaces old information and you change your mind about something, that's how you get wise. That's how you become smarter. And one of the issues with debate in general is that people don't try to understand the other person's point of view. And that's the key to debate. I mean, a debate class, I don't think that they have debate class in school anymore, but debate class, what you have to do in a debate class is represent the other person's argument as well as possible. You have to put yourself in their shoes and actually embody that idea and make an argument for it. And we don't really do that. So it's these two people trying to compete, like my idea is better than your idea, and here's why, rather than trying to understand the other person's idea, trying to find some like middle ground. So the truth is usually in the middle somewhere, but and maybe it's because of social media and everyone's trying to be famous and be an authority, but we're living in this time, I don't know if it's all time or just now, where it's like, this is the truth and this is false. I'm right and you're wrong. It's just this split down the middle when there's nuance. And especially when it comes to like big issues and big, assuming someone has real negative intent with what they're doing or not or whatever, like just not understanding the other perspective, like why they're saying it or why they're doing it. And we could all benefit from, you know, having a debate class type philosophy, which is understanding the other person's point of view, the point where it makes sense, even if you disagree.
Yeah, that's why I really appreciate the courses that you offer and just your work and the information that you're putting out there, because in my field of health and nutrition, I just see it so often where when there's a disagreement, it tends to become very quickly, like right off the bat, personal attacks and slander and trying to take someone out, uh, their character versus just what they're saying. And to me, that's very successful currently, that it works, that mob mentality, cancel culture, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, not to take this doom and gloom direction, but I do think it's we're in information overload, but at the same time, we're in like a stagnation period. Would you kind of agree with that? Or?
Well, yeah, it's I don't know. Tensions are up, and it is again, your opinions represent your identity. So when you change your opinion, someone gets mad because it's not in alignment with their opinion. But we're all going through our own individual journeys, and it's okay to, I think it should be necessary to always check yourself and your opinions and your thoughts and whatever dogma you're holding on to, because nothing is too sacred to question. As soon as you come to a firm conclusion on something, pause and reflect. Even if you still arrive at the conclusion, just to be safe, if there's another perspective on that topic or whatever, hear it out. Don't just close the door because you think you're right. You may end up being right, but it's still worth listening to all the perspectives on something before you make it your mission to tell everyone your thoughts on something.
I think it's challenging because people uh, tend to be they want authorities. I've noticed this in the health community. They want someone where they could, take 100% of what they say as the truth and it's all accurate. And that authority has to play that role, right? And if they deviate from that, we're like, oh, that's not a good teacher. That's just the current.
Well, yeah, that's what again, that's like a social media trend seemingly where you have to establish authority on something and you have to be polarizing in your point of view. But and I see where that works for getting clicks and getting people to, want to know what you have to say. But that also leaves very little room for, the more expansive overview, right? And I think that's something that's happened in the last 20 years. So I feel like it was a little more nuanced when I was younger. But now it's like, here's the truth about this. Here are the facts about that. And and that's clickable, but is that really going to get to the bottom of something when you're completely, when you're saying this is the 100% truth about the matter without having all the information? And yeah, it is weird that we are, demonized sometimes when you change your mind about something, when we're all changing our mind about stuff all the time, whether you realize it or not.
Hmm. Yeah, I love it. I think I don't know the way out of that. Do you? I mean, because it seems like it has to be a huge shift. I mean, we're so far down that path. Is there a way back?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's an individual journey. And as we were just talking about on the porch, that is that has what that is what has always made me, I guess, different. And this is because I don't really consider myself to be, I don't know, some genius level person or better than anybody. I'm just an average guy, but I'm not offended by perspective. And that's always been who I am. When there's another perspective to be had on any topic, any situation, even the ones that some people are like really gung ho about. I'm like, well, wait, what else could be said about this, or what are some other thoughts? I want to hear from that person first. That's just been a quality of mine that I think. I don't want to say like you should be like me, but I think that would help is if you are just more open to information and more open to hearing the other side, and also just putting yourself and that comes to like people who we consider to be overlords of the world and the ones governing reality. Try to get inside their heads, try to get inside try to think like they think and see if maybe it's not as, I don't know, I hesitate to say this because I'm gonna get flack, but maybe it's not as evil as you think. Maybe there actually is good intentions and it's perceived as something awful, and maybe it is awful. Maybe they have blind spots as well, but I don't know, just trying to get the full picture before jumping to just outright conclusions.
Do you think it's okay to be confident in being wrong when you think that you're right? Because that's something that I've gotten flack for. Is Matt, you were so confident that you were right and you spoke so authoritatively or whatever on this topic. But it's like, yeah, because I 100% believe that was the truth until I learned otherwise through experience and or research.
I think it's important to be open to change your mind. Be willing to be wrong. If you want someone else to come around to your point of view, you have to be open to coming around to another point of view as well. Otherwise, you're not. If that's if you're going to be that closed off to someone else's opinion, and chances are anyone people are going to be closed off to your opinion as well. You have to be open, which is one of the reasons, I taught a communication class for 3 years. And one of the main points I emphasized was not attaching yourself to the points you're trying to make. You say there is a perspective on this that maybe you're unaware of, rather than saying this is what you don't know. This is where you're wrong. Like, well, some people would suggest this without owning it as your own, because it is just an idea. It's just an opinion. It's not you.
Was that the Parhesia?
Yeah, that was my Parhesia class. Yeah.
So what the first time I interviewed you, I think we focused a lot because I think we're just coming out of or in the middle of, I can't remember the COVID times. And that was the biggest polarizing event in probably decades, right? Where you had the jabbers and the maskers versus the truthers. And and it was dividing families and dividing relationships
Right.
and friends.
Yeah. Well, I created a communication class in 2020 at right when right when the COVID stuff happened. So I was like, uh-oh, regardless of what this is or what it's going to be or what the truth is, I know it's going to divide people. As someone who's been a conspiracy guy for so long, I had been refining my ability to communicate these difficult subjects and these controversial points of view for a long time. And I knew that the COVID narrative was going to divide people, and I could see it coming because any big event does that. And I wanted to be there to help people navigate those difficult conversations because I knew that it was going to affect relationships and your status at work and all these things. So I wanted to give people tools that they could use to have those conversations without them getting heated. So they wouldn't, so marriages wouldn't fail and families wouldn't fall apart and you wouldn't get fired. And to help people who were, you know, new to thinking outside the box. Because when there's big events like that, there's always a faction of people that like snap out of their trance and think for themselves for the first time. So when there's something of that magnitude, it was bound to affect those, to shake some people into not trusting authority and not just blindly accepting what the mainstream narrative was. And I wanted to be there to catch those people because I know for myself, the first time I tugged on that thread of like, well, maybe I'm being lied to about this. Your first instinct is to scream it from the rooftops and like, lecture people and tell them because it's that important. You want to like, hey, I want you to understand this point. If your life is on the line, like this is that important. And that sort of energy does not work. People don't want to hear that. And so catching those people, be like, hey, I know what you're going through. And take your foot off the gas. Here's how you might want to frame it so that when you engage, it's actually effective and not detrimental.
Yeah. Yeah. Because people take that as a challenge to their ego, right? And of course, they're going to put their shield up and defend themselves because it's their identity.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Um,
And
yeah.
that's
Oh, go ahead.
no, I would say, well, and then working, and then doing that communication. I worked closely with hundreds of people in a communication style workshop. And then I became almost like a conspiracy therapist. That was the joke I used to make because I was helping people, you know, work through their, I guess, solitude as someone who's a conspiracy person, like someone who's who is not trusting the mainstream and helping them. Because what I noticed was so many people who get stuck down these rabbit holes, myself included. I mean, this is why I was good at it because I used to be that guy. Um, People become so obsessed with all the things that are wrong in the world, all the problems, all the injustice, all the lies, that they're unable to maneuver in any direction. They become like a deer in headlights and they become stuck and they become bitter and angry and they stop taking any productive action in their own lives and they're just unfulfilled. I was like, well, this is a real problem. So I really want to help people in this way. So then I like shifted gears towards, okay, let's get you unstuck because you're stuck in a rut now because of your awareness and that's not helping anybody, definitely not helping yourself. And if you're, if you're building towards something, if you're working towards something that's important to you, if you're being of service and stepping into your own power, naturally your confidence improves. And if your confidence is up, a lot of these trivial conversations are less meaningful. They don't, or even unnecessary. So the pressure you put on yourself to make these points, it lessens and you're able to like handle conversation more easily if you're feeling good about yourself because you have your own thing going on. You're motivated and you're working towards something that's important. And when you're doing that, yeah, a lot of those life or death conversations are not as important. And you'll be able to just handle it way better than you were before.
Mm. Yeah. I've noticed too a lot of narcissism or elitist mentality comes uh, from the separation. Like I lived with a guy that like worshipped Rudolf Steiner, that philosopher, and there was one a part in one of his writings where he said basically one third of humanity is awake, one third is awakening, and then one third will never awaken and become conscious. And I was like, wow, so that's basically like you're like categorizing people as like not even human, like NPCs, right? Non-player characters. And I think I got into that mentality for a short time where, you'd go out and you'd be at the airport, oh, masker, they're a goner, you just like put people into these categories and you don't know their life, you don't know what they're going through, what they've been through. And it's so just dehumanizing and it's so it just separates you. I mean, it's not a good feeling to me to look at people that I've never talked to or met as like enemies or as NPCs.
Well, I think there's maybe some truth in that overview about, the percentages of people. But that doesn't mean you should write people off or treat them poorly.
Mhm.
And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the traps people fall into. I mean, I'm one of my one of the things that this bothers me the most is people who are condescending. And again, I don't know if it's online communication or what, but my hunch is that it is because online communication is it removes our empathy. We don't get to experience how our words are landing or, what we're receiving from the person. It's just typed and you can say whatever you want. You can hide behind a fake picture and a fake name and you can just be a troll on the internet and be this pompous person. And you don't get to feel the effects of that. But uh, people are so mean to each other. And no matter where you fall on the opinion spectrum, people are guilty of this. I mean, I made a comment recently in one of my newsletters that the awake crowd is just as insufferable as the woke crowd. And that kind of stirred the pot a bit. But it's because it's this, like you said, elitist behavior. Like, well, I see things more clearly than you do. So you're a stupid idiot. You're a dumb sheep. And I get it. And it does. It puts puts a person on a pedestal to think they're better than other people because they have different opinions. But we're all just people. And the key is to, build bridges back to each other and keep listening and not just write people off because they are falling into what you perceive as a trap. That's how you further the divide and, divided we fall.
Yeah. I woke up 2 days ago to a comment on my picture. It said, "You're aging very rapidly." Because I talk about anti-aging and stuff. And I blocked them, of course, and then I felt sorry for them because they're probably living a miserable life. They probably are broke. They're probably working a job they don't like, in a relationship they don't want to be in, or just single because they're just toxic. So it's just funny, like you said, they're hiding behind usually not even a picture of themselves and a fake name. It's a
You can get away with anything. You can say anything on the internet. And that's, yeah, that's just, it's toxic and it's not helpful. I mean, I see it so much. And I think it's one of the reasons why I've one of the many reasons I've taken my foot off the gas when it comes to, I don't know, conspiracy research, not to mention, I mean, the biggest factor is because it was really destroying my life. But the, just how, yeah, again, how mean people can be to each other and how they can just write off an entire faction of society because they don't see things the way you see them. And you never know when someone's going to have their activation point. Wouldn't you rather play a part in like nurturing their growth than writing them off, or at least just allowing them to be without being an a-hole about it, you know? And that's again, that's all sides. That's left, right, everywhere in between. There's just this pompous, condescending herd mentality because there's also like a group thing about it. Like, well, now I've left this group, so now I'm not a part of the group. No, you're just joining another group. Now you're just in another team, and your team thinks that you're better. That team is better than the other teams, but you're not unless you're doing something. Because you're actually helping, you're not helping anything by just bitching and moaning on Facebook.
I forget if we talked about it in our first show, but like social media breeds this stuff that we're talking about, this division, arguing. The more conflict there is, the more clicks, the more controversial, the more clicks. And it's yeah, I try to remain an optimist, but I don't know if there's a way back, just because I mean new generations are getting brought into this Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter X culture. Just, oh, you're going to get popular if you tear people down.
Yeah, I don't know. I am an optimist, and I'm not worried. I'm concerned about some things, but I there's a clear distinction between concern and worry to me, and I'm not worried. I mean, humanity has been through a lot, and we're still here. We're still persisting. I think humanity's going to be okay. And I think that, one of the most dangerous traps I see people fall into is always expecting the worst. And yeah, there are some disturbing trends and agendas in the world, things to be concerned about. But that doesn't mean that the end is inevitable, therefore. Doesn't mean that doomsday is right around the corner. And what happens is people become so obsessed with how bad things are and how bad they're going to get that they check out. They just stop. And then they're just mad and bitter, mad at the world, blaming everybody else for not seeing what they see. And then again, they just get stuck. They're not taking any constructive action in their own lives. They're just waiting for things to fall apart, almost with an attitude of so they can say, "Ha, I told you. See, I told you." they almost need it to happen to justify why they're not doing anything now.
Mhm. Yeah, I can relate to that after watching Zeitgeist, with the whole Jacques Fresco and the Venus Project, which is basically like a barter society, I believe. I mean, this was years ago, but getting rid of the monetary system. And I was so into that for several years, and that was the brokest. I was working several jobs and I was broke, and it took me, I don't know, 4 or 5, like several years, at least like 5 or 6 years to break out of that. You're like, oh, if I keep believing that money is evil, I'm going to live with my parents till I'm 50, and I'm going to keep working several jobs and I'm going to be tearing down my body faster. This belief is not supporting my life.
Yep, I was there too. I mean, this is one of the reasons why, again, why this is a topic I'm passionate about because I was there. I mean, I wish I had had guidance when I was in my 20s because I was a rage against the machine kind of guy and like hating the world and blaming the sleeping masses for not, for being too stupid to see things and not waking up. And, you know, and I lost momentum in my own life as a result. I didn't have any vision or forward thinking. I was just angry all the time. And I would blame money. I had the really unhealthy beliefs that, money represented debt and we shouldn't have to pay to be alive. And it's all, money's just the numbers on a screen, all these things and where did it leave me? Broke, depressed, angry. But money is just a medium of exchange, and it has utility. There's some truth in like the debt-based system and all that stuff, but money is literally the difference between surviving and thriving. Period. And people who want freedom, money is the closest thing you're going to get to freedom because money buys you options and buys you your time. And I'll go even one step further and say, if you don't have much money, it means you're probably not offering much to society. You're probably not contributing much. Money is usually a reflection of someone's service. And that's the best way to also approach money, is to figure out what problem can I solve for people. And once you do that, you will get rewarded. The more problems you solve, the more successful you'll be, period.
Yeah. Yeah. In the health space over the years, it's so funny. People reach out to me and say, uh, what business do you think I should start, or where's a gap in them? And I usually tell them, you have to find that for yourself. I mean, I still haven't found like a good healthy gummy company yet that's better than Haribo or something. But
Well,
it's like,
there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, which is why I'm a fan of social media. Social media represents a medium for you to create your own business in a very easy way where you get to be your every aspect of the business, and all you have to do is like make content to promote your own business. And it's peer-to-peer exchange. There's no one there. Granted, there's terms of service for every platform, but you can promote yourself and your business online for free, and no one's going to step in and try to stop you. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Like this is the closest thing we have to like a voluntary uh, system is through social media. Um, and the easiest metric to figure out what business you should start or how to make money as an entrepreneur is ask yourself, like, what problems have you solved for yourself? And once you do that, you can now, if you've solved a problem for yourself, you are now qualified to solve that same problem for someone else in less time. So you can solve whatever agony you went through to solve a problem, you can now sell the solution to someone with less scars, with less wounds, in less time. That's it. That's like the easiest metric to start a business.
yeah. Yeah. What people with health conditions, we were just talking about tinnitus, and you said zinc helped your tinnitus. I mean, I haven't found a tinnitus expert yet. I'd love to have one on the show. Just with every little health condition, yeah, like you said, there's a solution and a business that could be built around it to help people.
That's where my communication program came from. I was like, because in 2020, I got married and I was going to start a family. And I was like, okay, I can't work a job. I'm not an employee. I hate people telling me what to do. How can I help? What am I good at that I can help people with? And I really looked back at my life so far and came to the conclusion that it was communication. I was like, well, everything I've done is through communication. I made comedy videos for a long time, which was a way to communicate complicated ideas in a funny way to make people laugh so they weren't so threatened. And then it moved into poetry, and poetry was a way to really take the expanse of my thoughts and make them as specific as possible in written form. Um, And because I was a conspiracy guy, I was for years trying to figure out like how do I convey these complicated ideas in a way that people will actually hear them. And so like, well, okay, I'm a pretty good communicator. I think I can help people improve their communication. And that has now evolved into helping people become self-reliant, which is what I consider myself to be, a self-reliant man. And I just use myself as the metric, like as the prototype. Everything I do, I design for myself. Like what would I have wanted have to have expedited my growth? You know, everything, what it took me to figure out in 15 years, how can I help someone do that in 12 weeks? And how can I have someone do this in 8 weeks? What took me decades to figure out. And then you make that a product and using yourself as the avatar you build for yourself, people will buy it because there's always someone who's been in the same situation as you or a similar situation.
I could see a lot of it for a lot of people. Like I wish I knew you back in my Zeitgeist days because it was could have stopped that mental loop in its tracks. And a lot of it just is deprogramming from the alternative stuff that we programmed ourselves with.
Yeah.
Because we were programmed in public school, but then we program ourselves with all this stuff that takes away from, like you said, doing productive things in our life. I don't know if this is going too off the deep end because I don't know yet, but artificial intelligence, like I'm curious your thoughts because I haven't gone too deep down this, but to me, it's one of the most fun, call it rabbit holes to like consider. Because, I saw Elon's Tesla bot in person recently and it's intimidating. It's like scarier than the iRobot,
Wow.
Will Smith ones. And uh, machine automation. I mean, I've noticed over the years, I see cashiers, I see people at jobs where, I can almost see in their heads, like, I don't want to be here. Like, I see that in their eyes, I see that in their body language. And from that perspective, I'm like, oh, robot cashier. I mean, we already have them right at Walmart and some of these stores, it's at Home Depot, self-checkout, right? But do you think that's going to be a challenge to your business, to my business? Do you think in the future, I mean, even farming could be automated, right? So it's like,
I think it's adapting, man. This is me trying to take in the expanse of history as far as we know and looking at it, like analyzing it objectively. Anytime there's a big change or there's a new trend or something that's seeming to that's infiltrating the current way, there's always a resistance to it because it's new, it's foreign. I mean, when electricity first came online, there was a huge aversion to it. Any new technology, any new thing, there's a lot of people who are like, we don't need this. And then it's embraced. I don't know what AI is going to lead to, but I'm curious. And I'm actually exploring how AI can, I don't want to say support, but complement what I'm doing. I'm like, why would I be opposed to something? I have no reason to hate it. How can I use it to my advantage? How can it be harnessed in a way that is helpful? And I'm just curious to see how it all plays out. And I'm definitely not opposed to what's happening.
I think a lot of the concerns are who are like Google and what is it, Facebook controlling the main ones. And then I think Musk says his is woke, but I don't know if that's the case.
Again, I mean, I'm just curious. Like I said, there's so much to be concerned about.
Or non-woke, sorry, anti-woke.
Yeah, there's a lot to be concerned about, but I'm not worried. We'll see. I mean, again, I don't regret any of my conspiracy guy days because I learned how to think for myself as a result. And I learned to question everything. And I feel like it gave me, the ability to be an individual in a world that wants you to conform. Conformity is the enemy. And we have to like really make it your mission to not be conforming to really succeed. So I'm not just gonna like be anti something just because a lot of people are. I'm curious. While there are concerns about AI, I'm not worried about it. We'll see what happens. Until there's an obvious reason to me to be, I don't know, afraid of it. I'm not afraid.
Because it's too far in the future. But then I watch news things that are like it's right around the corner, the next 5 years or 10 years, but that's still relatively a long way away.
Adapt. I mean, that's the key. Adapt to the times. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the flat Earth thing is funny to me because I see people commenting on random posts that have nothing to do with it at all, that the Earth is flat station. And it's like I've always come at it with like, what does it matter? What is it? Does it change how I farm? Does it change anything in my life that's tangible?
Right. Well, so it's so funny you say that. One of the things I'm so sick of seeing online are flat Earth debates from both sides. They're both just so, it's so, again, ugly, just the behavior and the condemnation of the other side from both sides. Whereas I just find it fascinating. Like, when that flat Earth sort of like revival came back in 20, whatever it was, 15 or 16, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm curious. Like, I wasn't going to just jump to the conclusion that it was right or wrong, but I was wanting to hear the perspective because I'd never heard that perspective. And even today, I mean, I don't get offended by anyone's opinion or like their thoughts on it. I'm curious. Now, I don't, it's not the hill I'm going to die on. I don't care. Like, I think that I don't know if we're able to understand the complexity of the universe, or the realm that we're living in or the world that we're living on. But I don't mind the conversation. But I like to be a conversation. It doesn't have to be an argument. It doesn't have to be so like you're right, I'm wrong. I'm it's again like on Facebook, man, people argue about the shape of the earth. It's so tiresome. And I think that's where the conspiracy stuff has really just lost the plot. I mean, I'm so sick of like transvestigation and people saying this celebrity is that celebrity and all actresses are actually men and like really is that really the battle you want to fight? Like of all the problems in the world, all the things that you could be applying your energy towards to, you know, help in some way or do something about, you're gonna like make it your mission to prove that female celebrities are men? Like, really? Is that what's important here?
Yeah, it's like what's your magnesium red blood cell level? What's your 25D level? What's your ferritin level? Those people probably don't know any of those three things, and that directly affects how they perceive the world.
Hmm.
My opinion.
Yeah. You can have all the opinions you want. Are you helping? Are you helping people? I mean, are you doing anything constructive to be of service to others? I think that is one of the keys to, again, self-reliance, authenticity, success in life. What is your service? What are you doing other than posting on Facebook and working the job that you hate and being, a conformist, even though you think that because you have alternative ideas, you are not.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were saying becoming a father was one of the biggest, if not the biggest turning point for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, having a baby it changed my life in every way, but it gave me a newfound sense of purpose. I thought, okay, I have to figure this out for the sake of my family. And now I have people. I'm not just I can like, be a free spirit and sort of float my way through life and, sort of swing from vine to vine. But I can't do that with family. I grew up poor. My parents were very socialist minded and, former hippies. And that's where a lot of my unhealthy beliefs about money came from. And I grew up in scarcity, and there was always a sense of scarcity. And there's always a sense of like, we've been treated unfairly. We haven't got the breaks. We're unlucky. And I grew up with these really unhealthy beliefs. And I was like, I do not want my kids living like that. I want to make sure that they are not worried about money or like have these negative attitudes about people who are successful. I want to like rewrite the script and figure this out. And I realized, again, I just immersed myself in information and knowledge and wisdom and realized that success is not by luck. Success is by determination. If you one of my more controversial things I've said on like Twitter and just to people who follow me in general is that anyone can learn to make money. Anyone can learn to make money. And people are triggered by that. It's like, no, it's a skill like anything else. You can learn the skill of making money. If you are poor, you are choosing to be poor. Choice. Um, you just have to figure it out. You just have to like challenge your comfort zone and challenge your ability to like learn new things and get over unhealthy beliefs. But yeah, having a child definitely lit the fire under my feet to figure out what it takes to be a successful person. And again, not just successful financially, but successful in life. To be the kind of father that my kids are like, that's my dad. That's my dad. Not someone who, when they grow up, they're like, oh, my dad did this and he treated me this way and taught me this. And, I don't want them to shed all the negative beliefs that I had to shed. I want them to be like, my dad taught me how to be an empowered, authentic individual who creates their own circumstances in life.
That's awesome. Um, what, how are you going to navigate the public school system with them?
That's a great question. Uh, well, we're gonna have to figure that out. I mean, luckily we're in North Idaho, which is sort of a seemingly a bubble. Especially I have friends who have children the same age who are scattered about, and seems like we have more options here than a lot of my friends do. I don't know. I've definitely, to be honest with myself, I know that I don't want to be a homeschool dad. We don't want to homeschool, and people might get triggered by that as well. There's a huge movement towards that, but I don't want to do that. Uh, I don't think it's the best use of my time and the best way to be a father to them. So we'll figure it out. Probably like my oldest boy is in a Montessori preschool right now, and he's loving it. And he's definitely, we're seeing, I mean, he's getting a lot from it for his intelligence and his development. Something along those lines, probably. Just kind of going with the flow and, you know, being discerning about it, but not just throwing them into public education. We're gonna not be that we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think we are blessed up here for sure. We're kind of insulated from a lot of the uh, woke programming going on when in Southern California when I was growing up. Uh, I don't know if this is a theory, and I'm not speaking from experience here, but I think the the real danger with public school system is just like the like bullying and the social aspect because you really have like your children could keep things from you, right? That happen at school if they get in a fight or bullied and stuff. And I think that's the unfortunate thing. And I would just hope that having access to cleaner water and cleaner food helps to influence children's behavior in a positive way where they're less prone to acting aggressively and like narcissists or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, every day as a parent is a new challenge, and we'll have to figure it out in real time. One of the best things my dad did teach me as a kid was to stand up for myself. So even though a lot of unhealthy, you know, beliefs about money and success and stuff like that, but he did teach me, like, if you get picked on, you're gonna have to stand up for yourself. You can't go tell the teacher. And that definitely served me well growing up. And I learned how to, not just take abuse from people. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a minefield, man. I mean, life is a minefield no matter when you're born. And we're dealing with the challenges of the day that are unique to this time.
Well, like online social media, it's different, right? You don't want to engage, you don't want to fight back because then that's empowering the trolls, right? It's the opposite
Don't
with
fight.
online interactions. You actually block and ignore.
I would say avoid fighting, avoid arguing. I mean, as a rule, just don't argue with anybody. See, and that's online, that's in person. Arguing solves nothing.
Yeah, it's true. Waste of energy.
Read how to win friends and influence people. Like, and not just that book, but there's again universal sentiment wisdom about the futility of arguing with people. Because I mean, you can't have conversations, but you have to like know how to you have to learn how to communicate. People need to know how to communicate, and that's something that's seriously lacking for most people's education.
Yeah. I mean, what percentage of arguments uh, end in someone changing their mind.
None. I mean, there are very few. Because even if you win, you're like in an argument, you're defeating the person. You're not like it's not coming from a place of, I don't know, love. It's like I won. Is that what you really want? I mean, again, we're all just people trying to figure it out. No one has it all figured out.
I love it. Well, what courses do you offer right now on your website? Or
Yeah, so my main thing is called the self-reliant way. And again, this is like the evolution of my communication course, which is called Parhesia. I'm now offering that as just an evergreen product. It's called Free Your Speech now, which anyone can buy if they want. But Self-Reliant Way is, again, I created it with myself at 25 as the avatar. And it's to help, people. I aim it at nonconformists. Nonconformists are contrarian-minded people who want to live a better life, people who are stuck in a rut and need guidance. Like I needed it. And to get them on track again, because again, it, if you're how do I say this? The world is as good or bad as you perceive it to be, depending on the lens in which you look at it through. So if you're attuned to only seeing the negative and only seeing how everything that's wrong, you're going to see that everywhere. But like right now, look, we look out the window, I see a beautiful sunset and a mountain with trees everywhere, and we just saw some deer running around. Like it's beautiful. And to not lose sight of that. And a lot of people lose sight of the beauty and the majesty of life. Because they're so obsessed with the problems. You have to have, it's good to have an awareness of things so you're not blindsided, but don't get so overwhelmed you can't move in any productive, constructive direction. So I really help people get their lives on track and find purpose because that was the thing I noticed everybody wanted but didn't have. They say, I want purpose. People want purpose in life, but they spend too much time thinking about what that could be rather than doing. You find purpose by living with purpose. If you, for instance, my original motivation was I want to relieve people from their suffering. Like that was it. That's what I started my first YouTube channel with. And it's always maintained and it's evolved and changed, but I've stuck to that original intention and it's blossomed into this, which is helping people get their lives on track. I'm as surprised as anybody that this is what I'm doing now at 40 years old. I'm like helping people get their lives on track. You would have told me that 10 years ago, I'd be like, no way. Show me how that happens. But it's what I'm doing because I've been living with purpose and I've found a purpose outside of being, a good father and a good husband, which are like my primary objectives. But yeah, helping people and realizing that you help people realize that they are in control of their own destiny. There's always chance, there's always things that can happen, but you can control your circumstances in life by, you know, knowing what you want. Most people don't know what they want, but knowing what you want, clearly defining it, and, you know, working towards that every day. And when you hit a snag, saying, well, not blaming someone else for that snag, but saying, okay, how do I now that there's a bump in the road, how do I get over the bump? And like helping people figure that out, creating a roadmap to the lives that they really want to live. And that's what I do with the self-reliant way.
That's awesome. Well, I see in my field, there's so many health practitioners and coaches and people to analyze your lab results. But I think just as important, people like you to get past all those blocks that we were talking about. So important because there's probably countless people like us that went down countless rabbit holes and hated money and focused too much on, like you said, the problems, and they lost sight of what's important and really uh, going forward in life.
People accept as fact luck, superstition, fate, and getting the breaks. And that's just those are limiting beliefs. You create your own luck, you can create your own destiny in life. But like to sort of marry these two ideas, health has to be a priority as well, because without health, none of it can work. So health has to be a major part of what you want. And again, like these things aren't, you don't want to achieve your certain weight and then stop the protocol that you took to get there. You want to achieve good health and maintain good health. You don't build a business so that you can make X amount of money and then stop working. You're now in motion. Like you're building a business to run a business, so it's not there's a constant pursuit and not just an arrival where you stop. So it's establishing new habits, new systems in your life that keep all systems operating. And not just saying once I get there, then it'll be good. Like, no, you're actively making it and improving what you're doing all the time. But you literally can create the life that you want with belief in yourself and persistence and a commitment to helping others.
Mm, awesome. Is it bennywills.com?
BennyWills.com, everything you need. And Benny Will's YouTube channel as well.
Great. Well, yeah, this was awesome, Benny. I think it's a really important message, and happy to have you on the show again. So thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Anytime.
Well, that wraps up today's show. Benny, to me, is a breath of fresh air. I really like when he said that the awake crowd is just as insufferable as the woke crowd. People tend to be in one of those two camps. And as we talked about, Benny and I were both in it. I was judging family, friends, coworkers, even though, as he said, we're changing our mind about stuff all the time, whether we realize it or not. There were just so many gems in this episode, and I hope that you got something out of it. And if you really enjoyed it, check out Benny's YouTube channel. It's Benny Wills, and one of his recent videos is called Is It Time to Panic? And it's hilarious because some of the comments prove exactly his point. Someone called it pathological optimism that Benny has. And there's definitely a balance. Like Benny said, you want to be aware of what's going on in the world, but it's so easy to get lost in it. I think all of us have been there, just going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And in my case, it was with health. And how are they trying to kill us? How are they trying to kill us with foods or supplements? And when I look at trendy reels and YouTube videos now, I do see that fear messaging just over and over again. Why this supplement is killing you, why you want to cut this food out today, or the trendy titles of these clickbait videos. And I think social media is designed to feed that fear, and it's addictive to find the next thing to be aware of and mitigate. And there are real things, especially with human health, to look out for. But if you get stuck in that downward spiral, that is worse for your health than EMFs, tap water, chemtrails, whatever it is. Benny's website is bennywills.com. You could check out his posts, his classes, follow him on Twitter if you're on that, and highly recommend his YouTube channel. He makes really great videos that, like I said, to me, are just a breath of fresh air in this climate of bitterness and anger and being stuck. He actually inspired me to be more aware of my feed on social media, just to be really careful with the information that you allow in, and specifically the fear that you allow in, because that absolutely negatively affects your physical health. My website is matt-blackburn.com. You could read about my CLF protocol. I have all of my recommended products up there, most of which have discount codes. Then my brand is called Mitolife. You can find that at mitolife.co. We sell a whole bunch of stuff: grounding sheets, shampoo, conditioner, the best 7-stage water filter on the market, various supplements, fat soluble vitamins, really the unsung hero, which is vitamin E, which has been out of stock for a while, but I'm working hard to get that back. We also have vitamin K2, which is often thought about for dental health, but it does so much more than that, specifically for supporting mitochondrial function. I do want to give a shout out to one of the upcoming products. You can actually see it now under the living tab, and that's the Mitolife coffee that's on the way. I'm really excited for this one. I think it has incredible benefits, either consumed daily orally or also used in coffee enema, which the HTMA people got me back into. It's just such a incredible plant, and we wanted to do it right and put the roast date on every batch. Over the years, I've used coffee that is lab tested, but there's no roast date on the bag anywhere. And I think that's a huge problem, especially getting into home roasting with the Kawa home roaster. I've really tasted and felt the difference with fresh roasted coffee. So we're really excited to produce small batches for you guys, and that'll be out really soon. Check out the Mitolife Academy. That's on YouTube. It's $15 a month. Get 2 videos every month of my latest thoughts and experiments. And then the last day of every month, there's a live Q&A where you can ask me anything for a few hours. That's it for this week. I'll see you guys next Friday. Stay supercharged.